Good day, all, and I want to welcome you to the first little personal vlog for the Chronically Chill. My new channel is TJ the Park Bopper, kind of explaining to you, giving you a behind-the-scenes look or information, update, news, what have you, on where we're at with the channel, what our plans are, and how everything's going, and maybe just little blips and personal statements about things, just to give you a behind-the-scenes look, because again, I'm not really updating on regular, and I want to keep my viewers updated and engaged and have a community. That's my goal. So that's what we're doing here with the Chronically Chill, is doing that. So why do we call it why am I calling it the Chronically Chill? Well, I'm chronically ill. I'm disabled, and I've really been this way since birth. Again, it's been a challenge to do what I've done so far. I wouldn't say it hasn't. You know, from here to there, it's been intense. I think you really needed kind of a background on why I haven't been updating regularly and may not be updating regularly for quite a while, and just to kind of make you still feel connected into what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And again, still planning to do things with the Park Bopper and continue that. That is the goal. That is really what I want to do. But I think we needed some other kind of channel and show just to kind of help expand that community, and maybe make you feel a little bit more connected into me as a person, and what I'm doing, what I'm going through, and what my plans are beyond just what the channel was providing. Kind of like a home vlog, if you will, personal vlog of me, TJ the Park Bopper. So how am I chronically ill? This is a fun subject to talk about. You know, it's deep, it's intense, it's personal, and I'm not going to give you all the details because I still have some privacy here, but I think it's important that you know a little bit about my disease, syndrome, if you will, and how that affects me, and maybe if you yourself or someone you love is affected by this syndrome that is rare, that you can maybe interface them with a little knowledge of someone who may have a very unique and different perspective on this disease, as I am very unique in the way, we're all unique, but I'm very unique in the way that it affects me. Classically in some respects, and not in others. So what is this syndrome that I have? Discovered in 1886, 56 by Dr. Down, the same doctor that kind of discovered Down syndrome, more like a correlation of maybe a genotype, if you will, of individuals that may or may not have that Down syndrome at that point. He was noticing that, you know, he had some other defects at birth that he couldn't really put his finger on because they were rarer than Down syndrome, but that there was this kind of genotype. His focus was really on the development of his syndrome and the care and standards of care for those individuals. So it wasn't until 1956, I think it was 1886, 1956, that Andrea Prader kind of did a study about the syndrome. Him and Dr. Willi, and hence the name of the syndrome is Prader Willi syndrome, and that is what I am facing. There are three main types of, and this is a genetic syndrome. It is a it involves the 15th chromosome, This can be maternal from the mother, paternal from the father, or it can be just an imprint between both, and how the duplication of the 48 chromosomes are expressed. It can be a deletion of the 15th chromosome. It can be just a slight malformation of the chromosome. It can be a duplication error of the chromosome, or an imprinting error of the chromosome. So generally, with individuals that have deletion of the chromosome, there's more profound diagnosis. Kind of the hallmarks are there, but the profound effect comes with the deletion. I am lucky, very lucky. I hit the lottery, if there is such a thing with Prader Willi syndrome, that I have more of the imprinting error form of this syndrome. The real defining characteristic of this disease syndrome is that other than the things, the benchmarks, the delayed benchmarks that you hit at birth, is the constant hunger that you have. So in a normal individual, when you eat, there is a signal sent from your stomach to your hypothalamus that says, hey, you've had food, you're full. You get this sense of satiety, you get this hormonal release that says, hey, you're full. In individuals with Prader-Willi syndrome, you don't really get that hormonal clue that you're full. So you're just constantly driven to eat, and it is intense. At the same time, and I was thinking through that this morning, it's kind of like if you had a sense of an itch that you never scratched, but it was always there. But if no one ever told you to scratch it, you may not scratch it. Well, it's kind of hard with food, because once you've eaten, you kind of have scratched that itch. And then the impulse is to continue to scratch that itch of food, of hunger. So I myself, being an imprinting effect of this disorder, and just in the way the syndrome is expressed with me, I have cognitive facilities that can reason through the physical sensations of hunger. It's still there, but again, things that we do and I do to manage those sensations, and have done to manage those sensations over the period of my life, help. And in someone that doesn't have cognitive facilities, it can become very dangerous, in the fact that you can't really scratch those itches, in any kind of reasonable way, without just kind of gorging yourself continuously, and it becomes dangerous for them, and they can have all kind of gastric issues, and it can become an emergency situation. And in that situation, it's really sad, because controls have to be put in place for those individuals not to constantly gorge themselves on food, and in things that you would say aren't edible, they'll turn to. So, supervision, assistance, physical barriers, things like that have to be put in place between them and food. So it's a very sad and painful situation. It's things, as someone with like myself, who understands the disease and what individuals have to go through, and the barriers that have to be set up in their life. It's just really painful. It almost seems inhumane, because and this is the cruelty of it, is we all get hungry, we all want to eat, and we all have to eat. But when you have to put in a governance that's so severe in someone's life, that basically puts an impetus in their hierarchy of needs, it's just devastating. And every time I was reading about this growing up, that it made me sad inside, because to think that it's the cruelty of that, it almost seems cruel. It's not cruel. In a lot of situations it has to occur, but you really want to advocate for those folks on, how can you interface that for them. So again, that's a little bit of the hunger aspects of this, and how this affects individuals both with imprinting errors and deletion, which really are the two. There's three types: maternal, paternal, and imprint. And what you see is what I feel is that the imprint errors can be, because I'm an imprint, it's a different scenario. And we're all unique with this disease, so don't take one or two different individuals as a type with Prader Willi and say, well, they're either going to go in either direction, because no, it doesn't. It's a genetic disorder. It's going to express its way the way it expresses itself. So that's really what PWS is. And again, there's other systems. It's throughout the entire body that's affected by Prader-Willi syndrome. It's not just the hunger. It's not just the cognition. It's the entire body. One thing that, and let me just say, because it is unique, I'm going to tell you about how I'm affected by it, and how what I've done. Well, let me just tell you how I'm affected by it. So I have the hunger. I have put barriers in my life to control that to an extent. It's really hard, because even an individual thinks of, you go through the day and you're like, well, I ate breakfast. And you may think of, okay, I've checked that off in my box, that's done. But in someone with Prader Willi, they're not thinking after breakfast about what they're going to do next. They're thinking about lunch, and they're planning that out. So I would say that I do that, and there's no way to get around it. That's the way I am. I'm going to think about lunch after breakfast. I'm going to think about dinner after lunch. I'm going to think about snacks after dinner. That is, when you think of how that can be limiting in its own ideal, not given the other factors that I face with the syndrome, that can be debilitating in the fact that an individual may get out and say, okay, today I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to think of, do I have enough snacks to hike the Appalachian Trail? Do I have, enough water or juice or, substance to make this when I get off the trail, what restaurant am I going to? And, things like that. So the impediment's there. So I can't, and I've went days without eating, and I've, done things like that. I'm not happy. It affects my behavior. I get really hungry, or I get really cranky and ill when I don't eat, as I would, because it's that nagging sore. But it is an impediment there, in terms of that constant feeling. The developmental issues that I've had have been another concern in within my life, as they am with all Prader Willi syndrome children and adults. kind of related to that constant need of need to eat is the thickened saliva. And this is another intense thing, that I'm always thirsty because of the thickened saliva. I always have to drink. I'm always a big drinker. I drink a lot. So again, something that is kind of a control for me. I can't eat constantly, but I can drink constantly, and I do. Not to the point where I'm going to, start regurgitating water, but I do drink quite a bit, and I find that is one of the controls, or one of the aids that I have, if you will, is and I try to drink lower sugar items, but I'm addicted to sugar as well. So again, fighting that insulin curve of wanting to burn through that glucose and then getting hungry by that and what have you. But as an adult, I found myself turning to quite a bit of coffee, and I'm a coffeeholic, coffee foodie there. So trying to do more water, I find is that, because I grew up in a time, and I think it's different now. Maybe it's a different climate. Kids are changing, parents are changing for kids, but growing up in the late 70s, early 80s, the beverage of choice at home was sodas. And I think now, with the climate and the studies on nutrition and the obesity epidemic, that a lot of folks are moving away or moving towards, excuse me, water and things like that, unsweetened teas and so forth. So I've been trying to do, I've tried to, eliminate carbonation, and of course I should, and move to more like higher percentage of water with juice, light juice, diluted juice, diluted lemonade, things like that. And that works wonders, and it scratches that itch of thirst. So thickened saliva is pretty intense, and I think it's one of the things that's not focused on as much. And as an individual that is like, okay, you've got the hunger, that's an impulse you deal with, but then the thirst too. So that really affected me. Like I said, I drank a lot of sodas growing up, and for Prader Willi, that's just not good, especially with the dental makeup of the Prader Willi syndrome kids. So we're a lot of us are born with condition like called dentogenesis, or insufficient enamel of the teeth. So when you drink nothing but sodas, it doesn't do good things for your teeth, and you're not one to go say, I'm gonna brush my teeth all the time, because then you have to worry about, fluoride poisoning and so forth. But it really wasn't something that was on the forefront or thought process of the day-to-day care for Prader Willi. And I think, if anything, as an individual, what I would advocate for people is that, new parents, and is beware of the dental aspects of what kids are eating or drinking. Because your teeth are thin, and because you don't produce enough saliva, and the saliva that you produce is thick, it's say that, and I'm like already thirsty. That you have to be aware of how that affects your teeth. And then in my situation, because I had that no enamel, and I had the years of the sodas and things like that, and I was prescribed Preventadent fluoride toothpaste, very expensive stuff, and I would have to use it quite a bit for it to make a dent. And then at the same time, getting in front of dentists that really didn't understand the disease on ongoing care idea with it. Using explorers on thin enamel is never good. It's going to create it's going to create cavities in itself. So at this point in my adulthood, I am indentous. I have no teeth. I wear a prosthetic. So that's pretty deep in the personal aspects, but it's something that I dealt with a lot of pain from that, and I went through a lot of things over that period with my teeth, and spent a lot of money, and I felt like I was on a sinking ship with everything that I did. And I'm happy with the way things are now with that. I don't know if I want more surgery to kind of improve that. I'm young in dentists, but I don't really want to put myself through any more pain with that than I have to. So that's a big way on how I was affected by this. And I have the chronic aspects of this, along with the hunger. For me, I've had quite a bit of surgery over my life. I think I'm probably looking at, maybe 3 dozen surgeries that I've had over the course of my life, if not more. I kind of lost count because I've had so much surgery. Annually, I have a surgery that I have to do as kind of to improve my situation. Not every Prader Willi syndrome child's going to do this. It's because of the development in urology that occurred over the course of my life. Things have advanced, and kids born now don't have to really go through the care that I went through, but I did go through an extensive amount of care, and with that, and again, something very personal that I have constant problems with infection. I have to have the annual surgery. I've been through I think the most expensive hospital stay I've ever had for infection due to that was almost $50,000 worth of antibiotics. I've had my experience. I've had in-home health care with antibiotics. I've had PICC lines with antibiotics. And it's no fun. And I'm really, really, really happy for those of us that are born in this time period that may not have to face those challenges like I did. It's still going to be a hard road to hoe for those individuals with those urologic conditions, but it's a much better situation for them, and I'm really, really happy. And I'm blessed for myself that I was able to be given this level of care for that. I would say that it in itself is the most debilitating, aside from the hunger issues, and really that I was able to keep up with everything that I was doing. In terms of disability, my disability and different abilities until I got to the development of that condition, that urologic condition, and that really put me in a different kind of life path with my situation. So surgeries, annual surgery, medicines, antibiotics. Again, I don't get the infections like I did because I do the annual surgery, but it's still not fun, and I still have flare-ups because from the years of constant infection, I've developed a condition called anemia of chronic disease, where my blood doesn't respond because I've had infection for so long. And it makes me feel anemic. I don't produce I don't have the iron amount, but with anemic of chronic disease, it's not an anemia that you can give blood for, and it just, or iron for, and it will make a long term. Eventually, I'll probably have to have another iron infusion. I've had them before, but at this point, it's just been discussed that my levels are just going to always be abnormal until I can consistently get away from those infections, and then at some point my system may respond and I won't be anemic, but not at this point, unfortunately. So anemia of chronic disease, urologic, and Prader Willi. I've also have psoriatic and osteoarthritis from this. Again, I was born, psoriasis is another genetic condition that I have. And due to having arthritis, again, the correlation is that if you have psoriasis and you have arthritis, you now have psoriatic arthritis. So again, something I'm not really treated for, given the condition. It's not pervasive, profound, and debilitating at this point. I have it in my feet pretty bad. I've had to have Achilles tendonitis surgery because, and this is funny, rare reaction to Levaquin caused me to have that surgery, and that was never want to have to do that again surgery for sure. So something I went through with that. Again, something more debilitating, and again, fatigue from everything. From chronic disease, you just feel fatigued, and you know, once you have that, and once it becomes to the point where your conditions are putting you on a different life path, you realize that your priorities change a little bit, or how you divide your energy changes. Again, for me, at this point, I would say, you know, a third of my energy is my condition, a third is my family situation, and a third is just all I have left in reserve to do everything that I do outside of family and my condition, as far as you know, all my domestic responsibilities, and it wears on the mind too, and I've had years of therapy for that, and other things that have happened in my life. So the Prader Willi, at least for me, it's you know, being an older person now, in my mid-40s, with Prader Willi is a different scenario, and as a younger kid I was able to do a lot more. Well, I mean, less at times, more at others, and that really goes with the weight, because the weight can be debilitating too in itself. So that's in general how I was affected by Prader Willi. Now, how I got here. Why am I here in Florida here? I grew up in North Carolina in the late 70s, mid to early 80s, throughout the 90s and so forth. So what brought me to Florida is I always loved Florida. I always loved Disney. I'm a Disney adult, and I'm unabashedly saying that. I don't care what you think. That's who I am. And I thank God every day that I was brought to Florida, and that me and my wife initially moved to Florida back in the 10s, the 2010 time period, and we're just so blessed. So many great things came out of moving here initially. We moved back to the Carolinas, and then we moved back here. And part of that was me to start the Park Bopper. Part of it was just that our whole family just loves Disney. Again, I think I was infected. My wife got infected. We really kind of further bonded over Disney, and I think my daughter's affected too by it. So, you know, there were a lot of positives about leaving the Carolinas too, in terms of educational opportunities for my daughter, and just economic things for us. Again, I'm not employed in a traditional sense. I always say I'm semi-retired now because I do my own thing with YouTube, and then my wife works full-time. She telecommutes, and we have the advantage of that happening for us now, and that's just wonderful. So we can live here in Florida, really where I've always wanted to be, and always wanted to be around or work for Disney in some respect. Just to be in this climate, in this environment, it just really is really great. And you know, I miss certain things about the Carolinas, but I think this is like home for me, Florida. And I love the spot more than, you know, I've lived in the Triangle. I've lived, you know, in different parts of the Carolinas, and you know, I visited Georgia quite a bit. Used to have family that lived in Georgia, and for it all, it's all here for me. That's just the way it is. And you know, if you're in my family and you want to come see me, you're welcome to. We'd love to have you, and have you down here. So, you know, that's why I'm here. It took it took so many things, so many life events to get me here where I want to be in Florida. It's just insane. Having to kind of change that life plan around my illness, and my wife having to telecommute, and just everything had to line up with us being here, but we got here. And the reason I'm doing this channel now is because realizing that for me to really devote enough time and effort into my YouTubing, that I'd have to do this. And I really want to connect with you as with folks as a community, in the Prader Willi community, and other communities that I'll discuss as this personal channel goes along. So getting here, making the decisions and the events that occurred to enable this, really been a blessing. And my family supported me. You know, my wife's supported me, my daughter, and I've supported her, and I want her, you know, she's got all her educational opportunities here that we wouldn't have otherwise. I want to go back a minute about how I'm affected. Some adults, some individuals with Prader Willi can have children. I cannot. So my daughter is not a blood to me, but of my heart and of my spirit. And my faith in God kind of, for certain, not kind of, for certain, led this arrangement. And I'm so blessed to have her in my life. And I hope she always knows that, how much I love her. So, can't have kids naturally. And that was a grief process for both me and my wife. So at this point, what I'm going to do is just kind of pause this video. They're doing some mowing, and I want to continue this out. I think I still have a lot more to say. I know it's long at this point anyway, but I've got to do something here with the mowing, and I'll be right back. Bear with me. So I can't have kids, and back with you now. So I can't have kids, but that's okay. always leave it in God's will to have children anyway. So I think if you do that, you know, advice, personal experience, my belief, you'll be okay. If it's in God's will that you'll have kids, you'll have kids. And if it's not, you won't. But again, I feel like it's kind of the duty of humanity and the responsibility of humanity to take care of our children, whether they be through natural childbirth or adoption. So that's my belief. And God has blessed me with a child. So that's really how I got here to the state of Florida. Now let's talk about my plans for this channel. Again, as you know, if you've watched my other channel vlogs, I'm TJ the Park Bopper, and the idea is that I just go around Disney and other resorts, SeaWorld, and do videos and kind of explain a little bit about those parks. I think hopefully from this channel you'll get a perspective of where I'm coming from with my views and opinions of going to those theme parks and cruising and so forth, just as far as my perspective of everything, being a chronically ill individual. I think I know it's not a unique perspective, but it's probably uniquely or somewhat uniquely on YouTube. So I just wanted to do that. I wanted to kind of, you know, bring some comfort or just some of my personal experience with Prader Willi syndrome and the conditions therein too, and how that affects my life and my chronic illness and the things that I'm facing now at this point in my life, and to kind of share my experiences of the parks and how that kind of shapes my view of everything. The idea, and a part of the idea of the Park Bopper, is that, you know, we really don't go and spend a exorbitant or long amount. We're not rope droppers to you know, park closers. We're just boppers. We go, we do what we can do, and then we leave, because that's how we feel, or that's what's going on with how we feel. So, you know, it's easier as a resident, as someone with the annual pass, to go for a few hours and then come back. It's harder for an individual who only goes there once or twice, you know, a year, or, you know, even once or twice in a lifetime, and get everything you want done. Now, I've done it. I could do it, but I choose not to, given my condition and how that would weigh on me. If I spend all day in a park, especially in heat, and I have these constant chronic issues that are with me, infections, you know, can flare because I have colonization, that you know, it can really put me in a situation. So again, I just bop, and that's the idea of the Park Bopper, is just someone that goes and bops around and does their little bit of the theme park, the traveling, the tourist thing, and then goes on and takes care of their health. So that's why I bop. So my plan is a little bit more understanding about those ongoing health things that I have with my chronic illnesses, a little bit of behind the scenes, and a little bit of other things that I'm interested in, like music. I've studied music. I'm a saxophone player, as you know, if you've followed my channel or seen my videos, and just a little bit about the interests, process that I do with, again, I want to integrate more of my music into the Park Bopper videos, and how that's going to kind of hopefully be foretold in this. Also, the community organizations that I want to get involved with, Central Florida Arts, and you know, a little bit behind the scenes there if I'm able to do that, and my life as a performer with them, and hopefully some other groups that I might get involved with down the road. Again, I really have to be careful with my energy and how much I devote to each individual thing, because I can get spread really thin really quick. And whenever my illness kind of flares up, I have to put precedent there. So that's a little bit about the plans of my channel. Again, I really, at this point, don't care about any kind of monetization or funds from this. Eventually, I'll start Patreon for the Park Bopper and sell merch. And as you guys can see, I've got 2 logos. One that I kind of came up with myself, and another friend, Ryan, thank you, that had designed one for me as well. So get the logos out there, get kind of some things going on in terms of advertising, and again, to get that channel to monetize. But this channel really is for those who are Disney lover, theme park lover, travelers, tourists, that are chronically ill, that want to get a little bit about my personal experience with being chronically ill, and just if you want a background on me and a background about the Park Bopper, and how I'm doing, again, I may not be able to make those posts continuously with the Park Bopper, because I really want to put a lot of effort into the production of those. And I know I have to post something. I should be posting something every day to help the circulation of that channel, but I really want to make this kind of the making of channel for the Park Bopper. And again, I would really like to have a following to this channel that feeds into that channel. And I want to be just maybe just people that are thinking about where they're going to retire, end up, or that are kind of chronically ill and having to divert their plans, and they're thinking about this life of living in Florida or living in a tourist destination, and trying to enjoy as much as we can of our lives facing chronic illness, that you kind of come here and you watch this and you say, okay, this is what it's like for me, or my chronic illness and my individual journey. This is how I face that, and what brought me here. And again, I am going to have privacy with this. This isn't going to be all personal information, but I've gotten pretty personal so far and about myself. And I want to interface folks in places that might be unique, in ways that might be unique, and commonality that we might have with each other. So that's why I'm doing this. And I think at this point, and very, very importantly, I just wanted to bring something back to Prader Willi here, and to talk to new parents that are having children born with this syndrome. And I just wanted to say something to you. I know a lot of things on YouTube, a lot of things online are kind of geared towards new parents, and as an individual with Prader Willi, I think I could give you some of my perspective on the disease. Again, unique to me. I don't know what your child is facing, in terms of their unique experience with the condition. There's a lot of commonality in the genotypes, or how the expressions occur, but it's still unique, and still something that can interface us all. I've seen other high-functioning Prader Willi syndrome or individuals that face things like blindness and things like that. So again, how the syndrome affects each person is different based upon the genetic expression of the disease. So I think that it can become, it can be devastating. Your child's sick. They were born with a disease. They're not they're not eating, they're not drinking, they're suffering from that hypertonia, that failure to thrive. You know, there's some other things going on that they're facing, malformations, there's deformities and things going on that are just devastating to new parents. The facial features of the kids look different, and things like that. You know, I would just say that, you know, all parents, we leave room in our hearts for how our children could potentially turn out or develop, and leave that kind of bit of grace to where, you know, doctors will say, this is your child, this is what you're going to have to interface with your child, and they're going to name these symptoms and these problems, and that's true, and you're going to have to deal with those as you do. And I had to deal with them, and my mom and my dad to some extent had to deal with them as they came about. But you know, children are resilient, and even though the cruelty of this disease seems like it's unassailable, that you can't get by it, you can't get over the fact that that your child's gonna be constantly hungry, and you feel like at times that you just want to satisfy that desire, that need for food, or that desire or need for that child to feel satiety. It is it's so difficult, it being just a common need in our hierarchy of needs. We all need food. That you know, it feels so tragic, but again, they don't wake up and one day the hunger starts and it continues to stop. It's there all the time. It's an itch, it's a sore, it's a wound. It's there all the time. Nothing that you can do to resolve it. You know, there are things that'll help, of course, but nothing no switch that's flipped or can be flipped that will resolve it or make it feel better. It's something that we carry around. So, again, it's just an itch that we can't rightly scratch. It's there. I don't think, as a parent, you should feel guilty about anything about what you're not doing for your child in terms of that need or want, and don't beat yourself up for not giving into their need or desire, and don't beat yourself up when you do give into their need and desire. We're all human. You know, we can't, and we all love our kids. We all want to take care of them. We all want to, you know, fix their hurts and resolve their pains. You can't do that with this. At the same time, they can't turn it off, and it was never turned on. So you don't know how they feel. They don't know how you feel. But, you know, just pack the patience, the kindness, and the grace, and look at the humanity of the child and not the cruelty of the affliction. You know, you're going to do that as their parent anyway, but that's going to be your desire and the way you want the world to view them. The world's not going to always do that. The world can be a really cruel place, but it can be full of kindness too. And things are only as easy or as hard as you make them. But this is a challenging disease for you and doubly for them. You know, I had a lot of people in my corner that really just helped me, and luckily, when things started out, you know, things were still developing. We were, you know, essentially 28 years into the 20 some odd years into the development of plan of treatment for this disease. and you've got 40 years on top of what I had when I came along, and in my lifetime, things have changed and gotten better for medical science, and for these kids. And you'll see that I've seen a lot more kids with Prader Willi that have controlled weight than I see more now with uncontrolled weight. So I think that should be, the weight and the desire of food is almost secondary in a way. I mean, it's primary, but it's almost secondary in terms of how you can't resolve it. There's nothing you can do, again, to perfect it or make it right. But there's a lot of other things with Prader Willi that you can make better, that you can treat. As your child matures, obviously you want to look at neurological development, cardiac development, and making sure that those things are going as they should. And then I think that there are a few areas. I think it's common treatment now. Hormonal and endocrinology treatment, I think, is really where you want to start with this disease and how it affects hormones in your kids. And for me, it was HCG injections, and that really made a huge difference in my growth and reaching adulthood and how everything was going to form for me. So I can't advocate strong enough to look into those the hormonal supplementations that your child may need, and primarily that. And then just one that I think is part of the overall need that probably isn't focused on enough is the dental need. For me as an individual, it's something I wish I had a different course of action with that. It was actually my dentist that had ascertained that I may have had Prader Willi being a toddler, and then it took that referral. Again, they knew I had some deep neurological trauma and deformities and birth defects going on from birth, but it all kind of summated from the dentist. So I have to stress that looking for the great dentist that understands PWS and how that affects teeth would be a great thing. I think they're few and far between. Again, I don't go to a dentist at this point, so other than just to maintain my prosthetic, but that can be something that you might want to look at with your child in terms of Preventadent, Florida replacement. Given the thickness of the saliva and the lack of production of saliva, excuse me, I say that and I think about drinking, and just the way that you have this constant hunger, I would just recommend that, within reason, that there's always be water available to your kids. They are, but maybe encourage that. Not only is just because you need water, the saliva production being reduced, it's going to ease that. And just the volumetrics of water can help with the hunger. So ice, water, it's a calorie-free food. I don't know what the current nutrition standards for kids are with Prader Willi. I know when I was younger, 900 calories a day, 700 to 900 calories a day, and increased exercise, things like that, were what I was limited to. As I went on, I kind of got into concepts before I made some huge changes, which I'll talk about in further videos, were things like ketogenic diets, eating, and when I was on carb heavy foods like anticaloric foods, like celery, things like that. And I had a whole list. And in fact, My mother used to make me a vegetable soup that was all anacaloric vegetables. So things like that can really help with that satiety. And again, sometimes it's just, you feel so cruel, and so it feels so wrong to separate your child from food. I'm not advocating that you give your child everything you want, but if you everything they want, but you know, when they do have those times where that incessant hunger is just like tearing at them and it's affecting behavior, maybe presenting things like anacaloric foods and you know, water and lemonade, water and juice, water and, you know, zero calorie beverages, things like that can be helpful. But looking back as the infant born with Prader Willi, this is gonna be a long road. There's gonna be surprises, and there's gonna be some good things and bad things about it. There have been in my life. Just be graceful with your child, and you know that your child has the greatest potential, greater than any child to be. You know, we could have Prader Willi presidents. You know, it doesn't matter. Each individual is, you know, has their own trajectory and their own possibility. You know, and I would just say that. And you know, it's not, there's no easy equation for this, because it's an equation that's all variable, and each child has their own specific needs. Although we all need that, you know, we're all wanting and seeking that satiety. We all are different. So I just want to say God bless you. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being here. And again, if you would like to respond or reply and comment, I'll try to get to it and comment back. And I don't know everything about this disease. I just know what I've been interfaced with, and I just, you know, I think and pray for parents that are facing this as a new diagnosis for their children, and I pray for those children and those adults that deal with this every day, that again they'll be able to assail it and to deal with it on their own terms, and they'll conquer it. It is a defeatable condition. It is something that we can, although there's no cure for this now, it's something we can definitely deal with. We're strong. Prader Willi people are strong. We're strong. You're strong as a parent. Your child's strong. So they got through the failure to thrive stage. They're sitting up now. They're going to move on. They're going to crawl, and they're going to walk, and they're going to talk, and they're going to make it. And there's not a doctor, there's not a nurse, there's no one that can tell you the potential of your child. You can't even tell you the potential of your child. Only God knows the potential of your child. I love you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have a great week. And again, I'll be making shorter videos. Try to daily. And again, please like and subscribe. Subscribe to the Park Bopper when you get the opportunity. And I hope you have a great day.